County of Perth Land Division Committee. I'd like to make note that will be shown on the screen for those viewing at home is our remote meeting platform, whereby whoever is speaking will be shown predominantly, with smaller images of the members and staff attending along the edge of the screen. The agenda for this meeting here has been posted online at perthcounty.ca. If you want to follow along, please feel free to access it now. Remind all committee members, staff, and others participating in the meeting to please mute your microphones when not in use to reduce feedback. As this meeting is being held remotely, the Secretary Treasurer will call for each of the members' names. Each member will respond if they are in favor or opposed to the motion. Chair will announce the result of the vote. Before we proceed, can we confirm attendance of all committee members by roll call?
Councillor Aitchison?
Yes.
Councillor Trentowski?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott?
Yes.
Councillor McKenzie?
Yes.
And Chair Duncan?
Yes. Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Yeah, I don't see any. The motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Aitchison, Councillor Trentowski.
Councillor McKenzie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott?
Yes.
Councillor Trentowski?
Yes.
Councillor Aitchison?
Yes.
And Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have some minutes. I've got a motion that the Land Division Committee approve the minutes from the February 26, 2024 meeting. Can I get a motion to put those on the floor? Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor McDermott. Questions or comments?
In the minutes, it didn't say that I came back to the meeting.
Okay. We'll have that corrected then, Michelle.
Yes.
Okay. So you're still willing to second that then, Councillor McDermott? Okay.
Great. So with that change, how do you vote, Councillor McKenzie?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott?
Yes.
Councillor Trentowski?
Yes.
Councillor Aitchison?
Yes.
And Chair Duncan?
Yes.
It's carried.
Okay. Moving along, we've got application for consent to sever B4823 Ports, Jeff Bannon. I'm going to turn the meeting over to you, Jeff.
Thank you. Set up my screen share here. My laptop is lagging. Just give me 1 second and it should load up. Yes, I'm hoping that it does. Thank you. Okay, so consent application B4823 was submitted by Elderoods Ports for the lands described as lots 16 and 17 of concession 4 in Ellis Ward. Lands are municipally known as 4316 Road 130. The provincial policy statement states the prime agricultural areas shall be protected for the long-term use of agricultural uses, and the creation of lots shall comply with MDS provisions. Subject lands consisted of 2 farm parcels that merged on title when the properties were transferred into the same ownership. The applicant is intending to sever the property into 2 parcels, which are approximately 40 hectares in size, with each parcel would exceed the size requirements in the zoning bylaw, and they're intended to remain in agricultural production. The lands are designated as agricultural according to the official plan. And section 552 of the OP recognizes that farm parcels must be large enough to accommodate, to facilitate the flexible and efficient farm operations over the long term. And they're intended to carry out a wide range of agricultural activities. Splitting up of original farm units into smaller farm parcels is discouraged. So planning staff are satisfied that the subject application meets the requirements for the new agricultural lot creation. The severance of the lands would result in two farm properties that are similar in size to the original farm parcels that had existed. The continued use of the retained and severed parcels for crop farming, and the size of each lot is appropriate for the farming that is being proposed. The lot lines have been slightly altered from the original farm parcels to accommodate for the existing drain and the vegetation on the property, which allows for more efficient farming parcels. And the applicant has submitted an MDS calculation that shows how the severed in the subject lands would allow for a buildable area that meets the MDS 1 provisions. The subject lands are currently zoned agricultural A. They will be used for crop production, and the agricultural lots to be retained and severed will still conform with the minimum lot area requirements and frontage requirements in the Perth East zoning bylaw. The proposed lot to be severed would have a lot area of approximately 41 hectares and a lot frontage of 416 meters. And the proposed lot to be retained will have a lot area of approximately 42 hectares and a lot frontage of 395 meters. Agency comments, Hydro One and Blue Water Recycling have responded, and they say that they have no concerns or comments on the application. Upper Thames River Conservation Authority responded after the original planning report was completed. They expressed a concern with the future development of the retained and severed lands. Their opinion is that a flood-free access cannot be achieved during the 250-year storm, and as such, they do not support the creation of the new lots that would be deemed to be inaccessible or where a developable envelope outside of the hazard lands does not exist. So the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority is asking the application is refused. If we do decide to approve the application today, they have recommended that condition be included that the applicant is required to undertake a flood study to their satisfaction. That demonstrates that dry access is available and that there is a developable area outside of the flood hazard on both parcels of land. Planning staff recommend that inclusion of a condition that provides for an option of either placing a holding provision on the lands through a rezoning application or the completion of a flood study. The holding provision would prohibit new buildings and structures on the lands until this study is completed. And condition number 7 has been included in order to address the concerns that were raised by Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. That condition was included in the recommendation to the Township of Perth East Council. Public notice was provided to the neighboring property owners on January 15th. No comments or concerns have been received by the public. The application proposes to sever an agricultural lot that had previously merged on title when two lots were put into identical ownership. The previous lot configuration represented the original farm unit, and Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, at the request of the Upper Thames Conservation Authority, the applicant has submitted a lot configuration that separates the severed and retained lands along the existing drain. The Township of Perth East Council discussed the application on February 6th. They recommended that the Land Division Committee approve the consent application subject to the conditions in the report. And planning staff are supportive of the proposed severance subject to the conditions being approved. And it is recommended by staff that the Perth County Land Division Committee approve consent file B4823 with all conditions in the report. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Can I just get you to stop sharing your screen, Jeff? Just
Well,
for a second.
certainly apologize.
Okay, questions, comments from the committee members? Michelle, did we have anyone wishing to speak on this application?
We do. We have Matt Orchard here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay,
He's coming in now.
Hear me now.
Yeah.
I don't have any specific comments. I mean, Jeff has summarized everything, and I'm more just available if there are questions or anything that needs clarification. The real intent here is just related to estate planning. So it's the applicant is doing some estate planning, and for that purpose, wish to have two separate parcels available for that purpose. So that's really the only impetus behind the application.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak, Michelle? Okay, I guess I just have one question for you, Jeff. Wouldn't there be an onus on the individual that applied for a building permit at some point on those lands to go through the flood study aspect of this? Like, it seems kind of onerous to put a condition like this on an applicant when all they're doing is severing two pieces of land that merged on title.
Yeah, so the onus is if they applied for a building permit, they would have to, if they're within the floodplain area, they would have to complete those studies. And if they were in lands that were just zoned as agricultural, which some of the land is, they wouldn't have to complete that floodplain study. So being that Upper Thames has some concerns that their flood mapping might not be completely up to date, or that if something was located close to the floodplain, that's why they're asking for the additional requirement to be fulfilled. My understanding with speaking with the applicant is that they do not have any intention to build on the property. But we wanted to make sure that if they did decide to build sometime down the road, that they were building on a land that wasn't going to be flooded, or that was going to have any of those flood concerns if it was going to be a residential dwelling. And as such, then we allowed them to include, or they were comfortable with it, and we felt that with Upper Thames comments, that middle ground would be met by allowing them to include that condition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else with any questions or concerns? Okay. Oh, Councillor Aitchison?
Not really a concern. So this floodplain, that is a drainage issue, whatever that comes down through the front onto the road there.
Yeah, there is a drainage ditch that does come down through the middle of the two properties. But it's beyond that for the floodplain. The floodplain encompasses the majority of both subject properties. So it's beyond just the drain. It is a lot of the farmland is under those flood regulations. So there's only a very small area of land that they could build on the property that's to the west. And then the property to the east, they have a little bit more flexibility with being able to put a dwelling and have safe access on that land, as long as they met the MDS setbacks, and there is area that they could accommodate that. So planning staff felt that it was important to recognize their right to being able to build on those agricultural lands without having to do the flood study and to rezone the property or to lift a holding provision. So that's why we applied the provision only to the floodplain lands, not to the entire property, both properties.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, I don't see anyone, so I've got a motion that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B4823, and that the Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B4823 submitted by Matthew Orchard on behalf of Edeltrud Ports for the lands described as Lot 16 and 18, Concession 4, Ellis Ward in the Township of Perth East, 4316 Road 130, subject to the conditions listed in the report. Can I get a mover for that one? Councillor Trentowski, seconded by Councillor Aitchison.
Councillor McKenzie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott,
Yes.
Councillor Trentowski,
Yes.
Councillor Aitchison,
Yes.
and Chair Duncan.
Yes,
Carried.
it's carried. Thanks, everyone. All right, moving along.
Okay, so the next application is B5223. It is located in Seymourville, Shakespeare. And I will share my screen here for you. Okay, so B 48 2023 is for the lands described as lot 8 and lot 17, part lot 9, part lot 16 of Plan 331 is located in Southeast Ward in Township of Perth East, and is municipally known as 2175 line 34 in Shakespeare. Provincial policy statement notes that settlement areas should be the focus of growth and development, and land use patterns within those areas shall be subject to densities and a mix of land uses which efficiently use the land and resources and are appropriate for those uses. Subject property is located within the serviced urban area. In the official plan, it's considered a settlement area, and it is a residential serviced area. That serviced area is intended to be for a broad range of land uses, including residential, institutional, recreational, and utility uses. Residential policies recognize that with the provision of municipal sanitary services, new residential development is anticipated to be on smaller lots and at higher densities than in the past. The Shakespeare urban area is partially serviced with full municipal sanitary services and partial municipal water. It's intended that the partially serviced area will eventually become fully serviced. The subject lands are zoned as residential medium density R2 zone in the Perth East zoning bylaw. That zone permits singles, semi-detached dwellings, duplex, triplex, and converted dwellings containing not more than 3 dwelling units. The proposed lot to be severed will have a lot area of approximately 1,021 square meters, a lot frontage of 35 meters, and the proposed lot to be retained will have a lot area of approximately 1,241 square meters, lot frontage of 35 meters. Retained lands are occupied with a 2-story, 4-unit townhouse dwelling, and the severed lands are occupied with 3 accessory sheds and playground equipment. Through the circulation, Blue Water Recycling has responded and stated that they have no comments, and MTO has no objection to the application. Public notice was provided to neighboring property owners on January 22nd in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. The neighbor immediately to the west of the subject lands have expressed a concern with garbage and upkeep of the property. They're concerned that another quadruplex is going to be developed, and they have requested that a fence is placed along the entire property line. If the property was to be rezoned to allow for those 4 dwelling units that they have a concern with, a planting strip would be required as part of the provisions in an R3 zone. Subject lands are within the service settlement area, and the residential land uses are permitted in the official plan. There are existing sanitary and storm services available to both the severed and retained lands, and the retained parcel is serviced by a municipal water supply. Planning staff have included a condition, which is number 7, to require that the nearby water services are extended to the proposed lands that are to be severed. The lot severance would result in a buildable lot that will meet the required zoning bylaw requirements for a triplex dwelling in a location that represents logical expansion of the existing services. The lands to be retained are occupied with the 4-unit townhouse dwelling. Lands to be severed are intended to be developed with a triplex dwelling. A townhouse dwelling unit is not a permitted use in the residential R2 zone. So as a result, if the consent application is approved, the lot area and the lot depth of the retained parcel will change, and rezoning of the retained lands is necessary to conform the lot to the township zoning bylaw. So as a result, condition number 8 has been included in the staff recommendation to ensure that the parcel is brought into conformity with the zoning bylaw. Perth East Council discussed the application on February 6th of 2024, recommended that the Land Division Committee approve the consent application subject to the conditions in the report. Planning staff are supportive of the proposed severance subject to the recommended conditions of consent being approved, and planning staff would recommend that the Perth County Land Division Committee approve consent file B 5223 with all conditions listed in the report. And again, I'm available to answer questions.
Thanks, Jeff. Michelle, do we have anyone wishing to speak on this application?
We do have the owners here. They haven't raised their hand whether they'd like to speak. but I'm sure if anybody has questions, they'd be willing to answer them.
Okay, good. Committee members? Questions, comments? Okay, I don't see any. So I have a motion that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B 5223 2497505 Ontario Inc. report, and that the Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever 5223 submitted by 2497505 Ontario Inc. for the lands described as Lot 8, Lot 17, Part Lot 9, Part Lot 16, Plan 331, Part 2, 44R-443, Southeast Hope Ward in the Township of Perth East, 2175, line 34, subject to the conditions listed in the report. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor McDermott.
Counselor Chantowski, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Aitchison,
Yes.
Counselor McDermott,
Yes.
Counselor McKenzie,
Yes.
and Chair Duncan.
Yes, that's carried. Thanks, everyone. And next we have application for consent to sever B 0324 Hackler Farms. Jeff?
Thank you. I'll just get my slideshow started here. There we are. So this application was submitted by Hackler Farms for lands described as Part Lot 31, Concession 1 in Ellis Ward in Perth East, municipally known as 5,220 of line 34. Provincial policy statement states that decisions to consent to sever must be consistent with the PPS. And section 2.3 notes that prime agricultural areas shall be protected for their long-term agricultural uses. New land uses, including the creation of lots, shall comply with MDS provisions. The lands to be severed are designated as agricultural in the Perth County official plan. That designation intends to ensure that prime agricultural lands are protected and preserved. Direction on the surplus farm dwelling severances is implemented by policies in the Perth County official plan. There is a flood and fill constraints area shown along the adjacent drain that is located along the southeast corner of the lands. The fill and the flood constraints area is intended to be an overlay or constraint area. The uses permitted by the underlying designation shall be permitted only to the extent that they do not conflict with the flood and fill area. The constraint area regulates approval of buildings and structures and requires approvals from the Conservation Authority. Subject lands are currently zoned as agricultural A zone. Farm buildings and structures, including livestock facilities, are permitted. On lots with a minimum lot area of 30 hectares, one single detached dwelling associated with an agricultural use and one supplementary non-permanent farm dwelling unit are permitted. There is a livestock farm on the lands to be retained, and the applicant has submitted an MDS calculation in support of the application. The surplus residential dwelling will require rezoning of the severed lands to an A1 zone, and the retained lands will also require rezoning of lands to prohibit any new permanent residential dwellings, which would be an A5 zone, A-5 zone. Blue Water Recycling has submitted comments. They have no concerns. MTO has stated that the retained parcel shall receive all access from Road 145. MTO will require the filled access on Highway 8 to be removed, and an MTO entrance permit will be required for the lands to be severed. Lands are also regulated by the Conservation Authority due to the riverline flooding and erosion hazards associated with the drain. Given that the retained lands are appropriately sized and will continue the existing use as an agricultural operation, Upper Thames does not have any objection to the consent application. Public notice was provided on February 9th in accordance with the Planning Act, and at the time of the writing of the reports, no comments or concerns have been received by the public. The Township of Perth East Council discussed the application on February 6th. They recommended that the Land Division Committee approve the consent application subject to the conditions in the report. And then for the committee's information, the applicants are a relative of an employee within the planning department. and therefore staff did not feel that it is appropriate for them to provide a recommendation on applications. As a result, the proposal should be considered based on the merit in relation to the relevant policies in the provincial policy statement and the county official plan, and if it constitutes good planning. So the application is before you, and I'm available to answer questions related to the application, but we have not taken a position on the application.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Jill, anyone wanting to speak on this one?
Yes, I have Carolyn Baker here.
Okay.
Good morning, it's Caroline. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Perfect. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm representing the owners, Hans and Pia Hackler, with respect to the surplus farm severance. And as Mr. Bannon mentioned, staff were not able to provide planning recommendation with respect to the consent. Certainly, we prepared a planning justification report outlining that the surplus farm severance is consistent with provincial policy. It does conform to the County of Perth surplus land conditions, including the overall size of the proposed severed lot is 0.89 hectares, limited in size to the house, septic, well, driveway. The house is greater than 10 years old and does comply with MDS. Certainly, in our professional opinion, it does represent good land use planning. The one thing I would note, when the application was presented to the Township of Perth East, there was a request on behalf of the owners to seek removal of the condition required from the Ministry of Transportation. So as Mr. Bannon noted, the current farm has 2 farm accesses, one from each of their lot frontages. They have had those for over 80 years. They've worked with MTO historically in order to maintain those accesses. And at the time, about 6 years ago, the MTO confirmed they could keep both accesses. Through this current application, MTO is asking that they remove the one existing farm access on the highway that is on the retained farmland. Certainly this access is important to them as they continue to farm the operation. It's consolidated farm access. It avoids them having to go past other houses that are residential in the area and gives closer access and proximity to get onto the land. So certainly the Council at Perth East supported the removal of the condition from MTO, and we would be seeking a similar decision from Land Division Committee this morning. I'd be here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any questions from any of the committee members? Councillor Aitchison?
So let's say we eliminate the condition of a second road access on number 8 highway, which is the one to the west of the driveway for the house. There's nothing saying that MTO couldn't stick to their guns on that, right? Like there is access back behind. I know that farm fairly well, back closer to the pig barn that's back up there, ways back behind. But I understand why they want it at the front, because they're going to end up driving from near the back of the farm to the front of the farm to get to that little piece of land that's left up at the front. But just a thought.
Jeff, do you have any response to that?
Yeah, so if you eliminated the access or their ability to provide access to the highway, yes, they would have to drive through the remaining parcel of land, which is on Road 145, and they would have to use that to access their entire parcel. I think what the applicant is requesting is that that condition be eliminated so that they can retain that access, so that they keep the 2 access points to the severed farm parcel. Sorry, to the retained farm parcel, which is the larger farming land.
Okay, Councillor McDermott?
Yeah, I don't know why in the recommendations that was not in there, because we discussed that fairly in depth at Perth East, and the fact that it's already a pre-existing driveway, we didn't see that there was any reason that should be taken away from them. So Perth East was fully in support of the applicants retaining that that driveway, and I would, if it needs to be moved, I would move that be put in our conditions too, that be taken out.
Okay. Any other committee members, any questions or comments? Councillor Trentowski?
Through you, Mr. Chair, did the MTO give any, what their reasoning was for having that requesting or insisting that entrance be removed? What was their technical reasoning or logic behind that request?
Through the chair, if I can answer that question. So it's within their policies that they want to eliminate road accesses from the highway wherever possible. And within those policies, if you make an application for surplus farm dwellings, severance, their commenting will be that they remove that access if another access can be provided to the property. And that access should be from the lower order road, which should be on road 145. So they wanted to allow only the one access to the property because they feel that the property can be farmed adequately from that one access. And then that eliminates more congestion and traffic conflicts along line 34.
Okay, thanks for that, Jeff. Councillor Trentowski?
If I may, as a supplementary comment, well, there's already multiple farm business accesses up and down Highway 8, so I'm not sure how having another one is going to cause more conflict, but that's just my question or my observation. Thanks.
Okay. I guess, Jeff, if we were to remove that condition at land division, it would then be up to the owner and MTO to enter into negotiations as to whether the MTO wanted to revoke the entrance permit there.
Yes, so they still need, yes, it would be to the landowner and the Upper Thames River Conservation if there was anything to be done down the road with to revoke that permit. So Upper Thames would still have the ability to contest the decision of the Land Division Committee. But if they decided not to do that, then it would be up to them to decide how that that access point either is remaining or if it gets removed at some point if they decided to revoke the access.
Okay, thank you. So I guess what does the committee want to do? Do we want to remove that condition? Councillor Aitchison?
I have no problem approving this. Councillor McDermott had sort of made a motion, but I have no problem leaving that access there. It's been there forever. And it is right at the corner, so it's not a big deal. Like, I think we should approve it without that condition, and then it's up to the Hackler Farms and MTO to sort it out from there. We did have one further up the road east of that a few years ago for simplistic lines, and the MTO stuck to their guns and made them take one road access out. But like, I have no problem leaving that there. And if Councillor McDermott made that a motion, I would second it.
Okay, Councillor McDermott, you want to make a motion to remove that condition? And Councillor Aitchison will second it.
Yep, I'm good with that.
Okay. So I guess we'll vote on that motion first.
Can I just confirm the motion?
Yes, go ahead.
Maybe I'll start at the first motion, which is that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B0324 Hackler Farms report, and that the Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B0324 submitted by Hackler Farms for lands described as Part Lot 31, Concession 1, Ellis Ward in the Township of Perth East, 5220 line 34, subject to the conditions listed in the report with the removal of condition 10.
Okay, committee's happy with that?
Okay, great. So we have Councillor McDermott. How do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Aitchison,
Yes.
Councillor Trentowski,
Yes.
Councillor McKenzie,
Yes.
and Chair Duncan.
Yes. Okay, that's carried. Moving along. Application for consent to sever B4923 Chapman. And Nathan Garland's going to present that for us.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm going to share my screen here. My camera, 1 second. Just while I get this going. Perfect. All right, I am here to present on application B4923, B5023, and B5123. The owners and applicants are John and Janice Chapman, Robert and Velma Howes, and Dale and Caroline Martin. And I understand that property has since recently changed hands, so I believe that the new applicant or the new owner is available to attend as well too. The applicant and the agent is R.L. Turvitt, is Les Turvitt, and the location is lot 1 through 4, 101, plan 104 and 105, plan 253, part of Henry Street. And the municipal address is 246 and 250 and 252 Main Street in Atwood. And then the date. So this is a subject property is located at the south end of Atwood in the municipality of North Perth. The subject property is located along Main Street and with the requested severed lands along King Street in Atwood. So the outline the 3 parcels there. So these parcels are all retained. This is the proposed parcel request to be severed, and then these 2 additional parcels would be requested to be merged with the severed parcel. They're just looking to maintain a bit of a fence row. There are a hedge row that's located there. So with respect to the severed and retained lands, application B4, I'll start with the bottom. This is B49. The proposed severed lot is 2,169.6 square meters with a retained as 743.8 square meters. B50 is located just to the north of that. The proposed severed to merge with the severed parcel on B49 is 81.1 square meters with a retained 973.7 square meters. And then B51 is located at the furthest part of the northern lots. This will change slightly just because there has been some updates set up. The proposed severed lot is 18.4 square meters with a retained as 1,219.2 square meters. The overall large lot will be approximately 2,269.1 square meters when the whole, if the whole property was approved to be severed and merged. Review of the county and local official plan policies and North Perth zoning bylaw. The subject property is located in the village of Atwood. It is designated service urban area residential. So it does have sewer there. There is some water in Atwood with a potential water line to be connected to the subject property in the future. So they do have water and sewer in the village of Atwood. The municipality of North Perth zoning bylaw allows for an R4 zone. So they have an R4 zone on the property, which permits a variety of residential uses from singles all the way up to triplexes. And then surrounding land uses are residential, park, and then some commercial lands to the north as well, too, along Main Street. MTO has provided comments on the subject property. So the subject property is within the MTO control area. They have outlined conditions, but they are supportive of the application. One of the conditions requested from the planning committee is the removal of the shed on the severed lands. The owner has requested that condition be removed from that approved conditions list. And then municipality of North Perth supported an amended condition 4 such that an undertaking be supplied and signed with the owners. They were supportive of the shed remaining on the severed lands as well too. So they were in support of that shed remaining. Just a couple pictures of the subject property. So this is the proposed retained lands located in the house. Notice of the public meeting was posted on March the 5th, 2024 at the subject property. And these are just the proposed severed land. So it is vacant right now, save and except for that shed that's located there. So that's the shed on the proposed severed property. The planning department has requested that a building permit be applied for within a year. There has been some concerns with that just based on timing as well as the process for getting a building permit and plans together and some servicing issues. So the municipality of North Perth has supported the application with an undertaking be signed between the owner and the municipality just to allow that shed to remain until the interim. Planning review comments. So water and sewage is available within the village, so it is a fully serviced area. There is open road frontage on both lots, so King Street's an open road as well as Main Street, so both of those are fully accessible. It is a bit of gentle intensification, so it does show a little bit of intensification within the village of Atwood for a future house or houses to be located there. As noted, condition number 4, planning staff have requested that a 1-year condition be applied to get a building permit in. And that North Perth has supported the application with the condition that condition number 4 be amended. Just also to note, Severance B5123 has an updated legal description to only include lots 3 and 4, as lots 4 and 5 have been registered separately as whole lots. So those lots 4 and 5 are, 5 and 6 have been taken off. So there's an updated legal description for that. So it is my recommend. I'll go through each one individually. So this is for B49, which is the proposed larger lot. This is my recommendation that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application to consent sever B4923 Chapman report, and that Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B4923 submitted by John and Janice Chapman for lands described as Lot 1, 104, 105, Plan 253, Part Henry Street, and Part Land Avenue as closed by R313390, Plan 253, Part 3, 44R2364, Elmo Ward, in the municipality of North Perth. And this is for 246 Main Street, subject to the conditions listed in the report. And I'm happy to address or answer any questions. Do you want me to go through all of them, or all the 3 conditions, or just do the first one?
Nathan, you might as well go through the whole thing. It's all related to each other, so we
That's
might as well
fine.
just hear it all.
B50 is pretty much exactly the same condition. So this is that the Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B5023 Chapman report, and that Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application to sever B5023 submitted by John and Janet Chapman on behalf of Dale and Caroline Martin for lands described as Lot 2, Plan 253, part of Henry Street, and part lane or avenue as closed by, I'll skip over this part, Elmo Ward in the municipality of North Perth. This is for 250 Main Street, subject to the conditions listed in the report. So this is the proposed severed land to be merged with the larger block that's located on King Street. And then the last one is for a severance and merger as well too. I'll just note the updated recommendation that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B5123 Chapman report, and that Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B5123 submitted by John and Janice Chapman on behalf of Robert and Velma House. I understand that Scott Patterson has since bought this property, so I believe Scott is in attendance and has been corresponding, so that's just updated as well too. For lands described as, this is only lots 3 and 4, so previously the motion included lots 3, 4, 5, and 6. 5 and 6 have since been split off just via a land division process. So this is only includes lots 3 and 4 for Plan 253, Part Henry Street and Lane and or Avenue as closed by legal description, Elmo Ward in the municipality of North Perth. And this is for 246 Main Street, subject to the conditions listed in the report. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nathan. Michelle, do we have anyone willing to or wishing to speak on this application?
I just realized I was still muted. Well, we have 4 attendees. I'm not sure who would like to speak. I'm going to bring Les in because he was the agent for these applications.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure if anybody else would like to speak.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Les.
Good morning, Chair Duncan, committee members, Michelle. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. Nathan's report is by and large complete and accurate. This is a retirement project of the Chapmans, and they're getting their ducks in order here to proceed to eventually build a new house on the retained lot. In going through this, there's some lot consolidation involved as well with the other 2 lots. Small parcels will be added to the King Street lot to accommodate as Nathan said, the shed and a hedgerow that's adjacent there. The discussion that occurred at North Perth Council regarding the application was with respect to the suggestion that the accessory building on the retained lot should be removed within 1 year. That was not satisfactory to the Chapmans, simply because, as I mentioned, this is a retirement project and their plans are not yet in place to get to the point where they can obtain their building plans, get a building permit, etc., within that period of time. So North Perth Council agreed to a compromise, and that a letter of undertaking would be submitted between the applicant and the municipality, and that would give the Chapmans up to 5 years, and that was satisfactory to them. So I really don't have anything else to add to that. John is with me here, as Michelle had pointed out. If there's anything to add on that point. The only other point that I did add, MTO had some requirements to be met here as well with respect to entrance permits and so on the on Highway 23, as well as the proposed entrance for the new residents to be built onto King Street. That because that area is within their permit control area of Highway 23. That's really all I have to add, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Les. Okay. So we don't have anyone in opposition to the application, Michelle?
No, it looks like Scott Patterson would like to speak as well.
Okay.
Scott, are you in?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Duncan and members of committee. Again, it's Scott Patterson here this morning. As Nathan had noted, I'm the new owner of 246 Main Street, and just wanted to make sure that the legal description of that lot has been modified, which Nathan has done. It now only includes lots 3 and 4 of Plan 253. Lots 5 and 6 are now a completely separate lot that can be conveyed separately. So it should not be any part of or subject to this application in any way. I'm here in full support of the Chapman application, though. Happy to help John and Janice with their plans for their property. Willing to convey the lot addition and complete that process. And if there's any questions from the committee about that, I'd be happy to answer them as well. The only other thing I noted was that when the presentation was being made, application B49 also references 246 Main Street. That should be 252 Main Street. B51 is reflective of 246 Main. And yeah, if there's any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, do we have anyone else, Michelle?
I think we have the other owners, but I don't think that nobody has their hand up to speak.
Okay, committee members, questions, comments? Okay, I don't see any. So I have two motions, I guess it is. First one is that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B5023 Chapman Report, and that the Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B5023 submitted by John and Janice Chapman on behalf of Dale and Caroline Martin for lands described as Lot 2, Part 253, Part Henry Street, Part Lane or Avenue, as closed by R 313390 Plan 253 Part 5 44R 2364 Elmo Ward in the municipality of North Perth 250 Main Street, subject to the conditions listed in the report. I get a mover for that. Councillor McDermott, second by Councillor McKenzie.
Okay, Councillor Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Trentowski?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott?
Yes.
Councillor McKenzie?
Yes.
And Chair Duncan?
Yes. Okay, and another one, I have that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B5123 Chapman Report. And that the Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B5123 submitted by John and Janice Chapman on behalf of Robert and Velma House for lands described as lots 3 to 6.
Not, sorry, just that will be lots 3 and 4. That was where that changed.
Okay, that's where that changes. Lots
Yeah.
3, 4, Plan 253, Part Henry Street and Lane or Avenue as closed by R313390, Plan 253, Part 4, 44R 2364 Elma Ward in the municipality of North Perth, which is 246 Main Street, subject to the conditions listed in the report. Moved by Councillor Aitchison, seconded by Councillor Trentowski.
Councillor McKenzie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott,
Yes.
Councillor Trentowski,
Yes.
Councillor Aitchison,
Yes, yes.
and Chair Duncan.
Yes. Thank you, that's carried. Okay, moving along, we have 6.1 consent file status report, March
Right.
2024.
I just need to confirm, we don't have the motion for B49. So we just went over B50 and B51, but B49, the motion we have to, I just need to confirm whether we're keep going with North Perth's recommendation or the the planner's recommendation for B49.
Okay, so I didn't see a motion for 49 in my
It was right
package there.
before 50. There were 3 for this package, so it's,
Okay, so
there were a
just
lot
let
of
me,
motions today.
sorry about that. Let me
If you would
scroll
like-
back and,
I'm happy to read out the motion.
Okay.
But I need to know if we're going with North Perth's recommendation or if we want to go with the planner's recommendation.
sorry about that for missing that.
No, that's okay.
And
Okay,
you're
so-
referring, Michelle, to the removal of that shed, correct?
Yeah, so what North Perth had recommended, I can read you their resolution. So they had recommended approval of consents B49, B50, and B5123 for lands described. And they said forward the conditions listed in the staff report dated February 26th, excluding condition 4, with a provision for an agreement on a letter of undertaking pertaining to services, provisions, and construction of a primary dwelling on the severed lot to the Perth County Land Division Committee. So Nathan, perhaps you can just speak. So it's the removal of, we were recommending the removal.
We were requesting that they apply for a building permit within a year. And if they were not able to do it within a year, then the request to removal. The North Perth just asked for a letter of undertaking, so which is a letter of agreements that says that they're allowed to have the shed up to X number of years without a main use. So the concern being is that it's an accessory structure without a main use. So North Perth supported the shed being left in place, subject that the subject to the letter of undertaking take place. We've discussed that with North Perth and the applicants as well too. So we did have a revised condition discussed, and so it is included with the North Perth as well as discussed as well. So I don't know. Do you want me to read out the discussed? I'm not sure what the preference is to go with just to include the North Perth condition in the recommendation, or.
So I guess, is the committee okay with going with the North Perth recommended conditions? Is there any opposition to that? Okay, I don't see any, so I guess what we'll do is we'll read out the motion with the North Perth recommended condition, Nathan.
So Chair Duncan, are you okay for me to read this out?
Yes,
And
please go
confirm
ahead,
it's the
Michelle.
Proper motion, okay. So that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B4923 Chapman Report, and that the Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B4923 submitted by John and Janice Chapman for lands described as lots 1, 104, and 105, Plan 253, Part Henry Street and Part Land or Avenue as closed by R313390, Plan 253, Part 3, 44R 2364, Elma Ward in the municipality of North Perth, 252 Main Street, subject to the conditions listed in the report, and then it would be with the revised condition recommended by North Perth.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a mover? Counselor McDermott, seconded by Counselor Tentowski.
Okay. Counselor McKenzie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Aitchison?
Yes.
Counselor McDermott?
Yes.
Counselor Trentowski?
Yes.
And Chair Duncan?
Yes,
Okay, great.
that's carried. Thank you. My apologies again for missing that one.
No, that's
We
no
can now
problem.
move along, I guess, to the consent file status report, item 6.1.
Yeah, so let me get my right form here. Okay, so I'll just provide a brief overview of the report, the file status report. So as of March 15th and from our last report last month, we had 4 new consent applications that are currently in process and 4 applications that are also in process. 6 applications have been approved through the delegated authority process, and 2 applications have received final approval for which a certificate of official was sent. Currently, there are 9 applications that are on hold for various reasons, and each of those reasons are listed in the report. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, I don't see any questions from anyone. So I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent file status report. Counselor Aitchison, Counselor McDermott,
Counselor Trentowski, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor McKenzie?
Yes.
Counselor McDermott?
Yes.
Counselor Aitchison?
Yes.
And Chair Duncan?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't see any correspondence and I don't see any appeals. Other business, Michelle, you have an update on the report request?
Yes, last month the committee requested that we circulate a previous report for surplus farm dwellings and then concurrently update the report as well. We have not been able to find this report. Even I reached out to Sally and she had directed me to an old log where we had a student a few years ago logging all of the SFDs that were taking place in the county. But that was all we were able to find. So what, in talking to Andrea, the manager of planning, we are happy to create the report, but we just want a little more information on what you're looking for. Is it, the surplus farm, the current surplus farm dwellings, maybe back the last 2 or 3 years, and then the sizes that we've been permitting? Is that what we're looking for? Or
Members of the committee? Counselor Aitchison?
Yeah, I'm not sure how far you'd want to go back, but if you did go back more to the beginning to current term, you'd see an awful difference in the sizes, I'm thinking. They have increased a little bit over time. At one time, it was more than an acre and it was turned down.
right.
And we have seen where we've gone bigger for geothermal or trees or whatever. And, it's not that I'm opposed to that. It's just, in some cases, it makes more sense to do it with a little bigger lot, but I don't know. It's up to the rest of you how far you want to go back, but
Well, we have the information up until I think it was 2021. So we can just continue that list on to our current numbers and then bring that, like create a report and bring it back. So it was more around the sizes of the retained and severed lots that we've been approving. Is that correct? Yeah.
I think that's what the intent of the original request was, yeah.
All right. We just wanted to
more so
confirm.
the size of the severed versus the retained, because most cases the retained's a farm.
Yes.
It's more the size of the severed lot, I would think.
Okay. Size of severed. Okay, great. We'll, our department will get working on that and bring a report back to the next Land Division Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have any closed session.
Nope.
Next meeting date, Oh.
29th.
April 29th, 2024. Okay. And I guess we're at that time here. I'll get a motion to adjourn at 10:29. Counselor McDermott, Counselor Trentowski,
Counselor McKenzie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor McDermott,
Yes.
Counselor Trentowski,
Yes.
Counselor Aitchison,
Yes.
and Chair Duncan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Carried.